This is Reset Your Buttons with Mary Elizabeth Murphy. Today's episode, Mind Your Busy-ness, features Mary Elizabeth and Mark Shropshire of FocalGroove as they discuss rebuilding and resetting in life and in business. Enjoy.
So we're here today for our Reset Your Buttons podcast.
Yay.
And my guest today and my interviewer. So we're going to bring a face and a name to the voice that you hear in some of our interviews.
That's right.
And that is Mark Shropshire,
That's right.
who is here to, he and his partner Bio own FocalGroove. And we're here at the Groove Studio. The Groove Studio.
You got it.
And we just decided that because life is so busy right now, that we would have a conversation today around the busy and how do you reset your buttons during the busy. So as I am prone to do, we're going to talk about the busy. Mark's going to talk about some of his busy, and I will talk about how to reset during the busy.
You can give me some help on that because I love having this free opportunity to dive into that.
Reset
for sure.
your buttons, coaching on the busy.
I know it's amazing. It's a high value. I don't take it lightly.
Oh, good. So we were talking about there's a lot of busy in general, right? I feel busy. Like there's podcasts to record, and there's and that sounds like a great idea. Like, hey, let's record a podcast, right? Yeah. And a lot of people do that. They jump in and they start recording a podcast. And we did that. We had a headset and the computer and then a microphone. And as you know, some of my backstory to recording the podcast but I didn't put them out into the world because I was afraid of what mean people might say, right?
Yeah.
So, and you... and Bio run the Mic Drop meetup group as well. So let's talk a little bit just about the busy around how do you do a podcast? We're going to talk about the other busy too, but let's just kind of start there because that's a jump in the middle kind of thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's a great topic. There's a place where, and this is not just podcasting, where people have an idea and something blocks them from ever doing anything. Right. And so part of the strategy is to help unblock. And something we try to do is help unblock that whatever that thing is that's stopping. And it could be fear. It could be the last one didn't work out. Could be whatever. Could be any problems. But we try to kind of take a lot of that stuff away. So we work on, what's your title? Where are we going to distribute the podcast? But first of all, what's the point of doing it? Right. Most of the folks that we work with, this isn't the revenue generator. This is a way to get content. It's a way to market. It's a way to it has goals, and it may indirectly, we all hope it indirectly brings in revenue, but it's not like some large podcast on some network, that has large ads. But it doesn't mean it's not valuable, because in the world of AI, what a great way to get, real authentic conversation out there in the world, but by doing podcasting. So we try to break away all of the things that block people from really taking that step, but also make it theirs. And that's something we've worked on with you relaunching is, it still has to be yours. It's still someone that knows you already, Mary Elizabeth, has to be able to look at it and go, even though it's produced, it may look different, it may sound different, whatever the take is, they know it's you authentically. Yeah. I just did it now. Like you and I had been talking about, let's talk about the busy and everything that's busy. And then I'm like, let's jump in the pool and talk about a podcast. Right. Yeah. Because that's some of it. All of our brains work differently, right? But I think very right. It's like there's so much out there right now that catches our attention. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing we know is
maybe as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, as a, somebody says, oh, you should do a podcast. Or it's sort of like it reminds me of, you should be a comedian because someone's funny, right?
You could tell a joke, but that doesn't mean you're a stand-up comedian.
Exactly, exactly. And it requires a lot of craft and training and rehearsal. But when it comes to life, watch how I'm going to bring this back around to our original topic. When it comes to life, there is no dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
Right? So when things start coming at us and they start getting busy and we feel like we're in the middle of the pool, I work with people to help them look at how to reset their buttons around that.
Yeah, what helps them in their circumstance. And I think what's neat about what you do is understanding how a concept that on the surface might sound simple isn't really, and it has to be tailored to that individual person in some regard, right? Yeah. But it does work.
Right. So when you're in the busy, how do you recognize, like, what's your, because I think when we're in the busy, I know for myself, when I'm in the busy, I'm in the busy and it takes me a little while to pause and breathe, as I talk about in Reset, to recognize, like, hold on, I'm in the busy, right? And sometimes it's too late, right? And we'll talk about that in a bit. But how do you recognize? What's your sort of clue that you might be caught up in the busy?
I felt it yesterday. I'm building. I'm interested in building AI tools, and I've got some stuff going on. And I know Baya was sitting kind of where you're sitting yesterday, and I told him at one point, I said, I'm kind of wired up, aren't I? Like, I only had a cup of coffee. Yeah. But I was so excited about the stuff I was working on. But I was also bouncing around a lot between things. And I knew that. I recognized it. I'm like, I'm bouncing here. Yeah. But it feels kind of good, so I'm going to let it roll. And that was fine because I recognized it. Mm-hmm. I think an inverse of some of that is when I get into an overwhelming feeling, and that's when it's kind of gone too far. That's where I feel like I've gone too far, and I'm not really dealing with it. Then is kind of challenging. So it's when I'm in that overwhelmed feeling, and so because I think busy is and it's kind of interpreted however you interpret what busy means, right? Right. But for me, I don't really want to. Even though it's my tendency, I don't want it to just be checking off boxes and the dopamine hit around that. Right. But I fall for that. I mean, I am, I come out of the David Allen getting things done stuff, and there is a certain thing. It has helped me a lot. Right. But it also, at the same time, there's something about checking off boxes. And I have to ask myself, where I feel best being busy, and I would just sum it like this a little bit, is when I'm doing meaningful work. And when you actually feel like, end of the day, all right, maybe every day, the day wasn't perfect, but at the end of the day, I did some things that were meaningful. It helped some people. It helped me grow, something didn't have to be a huge deal. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's because a couple of things come to mind again within the reset model when you talk about that, right? So one is expectations, which we'll kind of go back to. But toward the end of your day, as you're describing it, you're talking about the values that I did something meaningful today. Right. Yeah. So that value, the emphasized core values gets met. And what I like about that is in being caught up in the busy is a pause. So a lesson I'm taking from you in that is if I want to pause and look at my expectations, and as I say, reset is not a linear model. We describe it in a model. It's a model, method, and a mindset. But once you recognize it's not linear, right? So if we were to jump to what you just said about say what you said about the end of the day, because I clearly can't get it. Oh yeah. At the end of the day, I like. Did I do something meaningful? Was it meaningful? Right. Did it help someone? Did it help me move forward and be a better person because of it? Yeah. But again, that sounds. I don't mean to make it sound so virtuous. It doesn't have to be major things. Right. You just want to feel like that there was some reason other than I did this thing, because we all have tasks that have to be done in the day, but that they don't feel the same level of meaningful. But if that becomes part of the goal,
right? So, we talk about goal setting. We actually have a program called the 90-day reset sprint that we work with people and teams and cohorts and things to help them to accomplish something within 90 days. What I'm loving about what you're saying, in addition to that, is that so I recognize I'm in the busy. At the end of the day, when I recount my day, did I do something meaningful today? Did I help somebody today? Sort of that checklist. You were talking about the
other than just
dopamine
being
hit.
busy, because that's what's the other side of that is if and I don't expect every day I have some meaningful thing. By the way, that can't be. You're gonna have days that are all over the place, but on the other side, I don't want to have checked a bunch of boxes and just get into a mode of that and not feel like that I've done anything that's meaningful, and that can be defined however you want it. You're right, though. It is tied to goals, or it should be.
Well,
or moving goals forward. Like, are we moving towards a thing?
Right. And one of the places we start with is the wheel of life, which there's a very popular coaching tool called the balance wheel of life, right? And it has it looks like a wheel, and it has all the different sections of our life. And then you rank it where you feel that you are being fulfilled in your life.
Gotcha.
And with the visual of that, when you draw a circle around, if it doesn't make a perfect circle, which it rarely ever does, then it's like, well, if it's a wheel and it's not perfectly symmetrical, right? It's not going to roll very well.
Yeah.
It's going to kind of clunk down the road.
That's a great visual for how you feel when it's not perfectly circle.
Right. So in the busy, right?
Yeah.
You're clunking, it's hard. And so where we want to bring our attention to is, as in what you're describing here, how do I want to feel at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Right? So that's that whole begin with the end in mind, right?
Exactly.
So if we're looking at the end of the day, then this is how I want to feel. So I'm kind of making this up while we're talking, and I'm learning while we're talking, right? Which is my perspective. If I take that perspective of pause and breathe, and then check in and say, is what I'm doing now, how am I going to feel about that at the end of the day? Right? So,
and I don't do that. I'm terrible at. I mean, first of all, I have to even think: is that even a thing that, until you just said it, that I would even register as something to do? I don't think so. But
what if you did?
But what if I did? That would help, and I think it would help for just one quick thought that I had, and that was at the end of the day when we all do sort of reflect on the day. It's also when you've expired most all of your energy, you're more likely to spiral into some negative thought or whatever based on emotional reaction of things that have occurred, right?
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say, if you did a check-in midday or during the day, maybe a couple of check-ins, and you said, hey, how is this? How are we tracking towards goals and having some accomplishments that feel good or whatever? It gives you a chance to make adjustments, it sounds like.
Yeah. And what I love about what we're talking about is that question of how do I want to feel at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Right? So we have lists.
Fulfilled is the thing that comes to my mind.
Okay.
Even though I know everybody can define that different ways, right? And it's not just work. It's like talking about the wheel of life. It's never going to just be work. It's going to always be seasons of things going on with family and friends and all the things that make up one's life.
Right.
So it's so easy in our culture, I think, just to we emphasize work so much, and it is a big part of our life, but it's not the only thing.
Well, and it's why it's referred to, that particular wheel is referred to a balance wheel of life, right? Where's the balance of it? And we're all striving toward having more balance in our life.
Yep.
And I don't know how you're doing at it, but I don't know that I have it. yet.
I'm looking
still.
for balance and peace is what's on my mind a lot. And because I think they go a little bit hand in hand, and so I, just looking for that place where regardless of how the day goes,
right.
I recognize what I'm in control of and what I'm not in control of.
Yeah.
And I am the worst stoicist you could imagine. Like I respect the philosophy of the Stoics,
Of the
right?
Stoics, yeah.
But it is. So I respect it. I think it's very interesting intellectually and beyond. But and I can see value in it. But I am not. That's not how I'm wired up. And so I have to accept that. And you said that reminds me of something that you said early on too. I don't want to take us off track too much, but I did want to acknowledge this, that everybody thinks different. And this has been on my mind a lot. I've run into a few topics. I think I could remember some of them, but a few topics recently, even in the past few years, where either it was I read an article, a study, or I just discovered it talking to somebody. How different people think, like or how different people process things, which is an awesome thing that we're all individuals and we're all different. Because there's just been conversations where someone says, this is how, and I've stopped them and said, that's how you process that. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
There's not, and I always tell them that's not a right or wrong, not casting judgment, but I'm recognizing that I never would have thought, because inside my Shropshire skull, the brain, the mind, the soul, all that, I just make these assumptions like we all do that, well, everybody thinks Mary Elizabeth must think the way I do about this. And it's not true.
No, it's not true. And it's how I make my living, right? Like at work,
that has to be the best. Yeah.
Yeah. In the workplace, everybody thinks, why don't they think like I do? Or everybody thinks that people think the same. Or if they don't think like I do, then judgment comes in and we're looking at somebody as being bad and wrong because they don't process the way that
instead of looking at it like, wow, that's great to have them on my team because they bring some diversity to the team that would be interesting.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah. And that brings us to a sense of self. So we talked about recognizing the busy. We talked about a little bit about expectations.
Right.
What I love about that is it's really like I'm going to start to do that. It ties to how do I want to feel at the end of the day? Because frankly, come the end of the day, I am usually like mentally exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm unfortunately not so much physically exhausted, which that's a whole different conversation for a different podcast. But mentally, I'm like, I just want to get lost in whatever is on the television that is where I can put my attention.
You just want to zone out sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. And so what we're talking about here today, and you're pointing to if I were to check in with myself at the end of today, and it is I'll shorten it to my words. What difference did I make in the world today? How did I show up to other people today? Or how did I bring value?
The way to describe it. It's like and not to feel bad about it, but to learn from it. Was there a place where I missed an opportunity to be extra kind to somebody because I was busy or whatever? And because it's usually not bad intention. Most people go in with good intentions at the start of the day. But yeah, being able to check in and say, hey, that was neat. I got to spend time with somebody. I didn't expect it. And a lot of times these are unexpected opportunities that crop up. And because I took that time, here's the benefit. And you know what? All the things I worry about didn't fall apart.
Right.
And maybe if something did, is at the end of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much we can control, but that's something that I love being around a co-work facility is because I get to have the opportunity to interact with all kinds of people in different roles and different points of life and seasons. And you get to kind of be a part of that with them. Yeah.
It's how I love where we're going with this because so at the end of the day, how did I do?
Yeah.
If my intention this morning was that I want to be able to know that this is too high of a bar, at least for me. I showed up as my best self all the time.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
If we could all do that. Yeah.
No one cut me off in traffic, or
Right.
no one had too many items in the express.
Yeah, I didn't know we were talking about when you're in the car. Obviously, different persons.
Yeah. However, if I think about, okay, what is my expectation for myself today?
Yeah.
Not necessarily my expectation of others, my expectation of myself. And one of the questions I ask when I do a keynote or open a workshop with Reset is, I will open it with, who or how do you want to be in your relationships?
Okay.
And so that could be works really well with what you've kicked us off with here, which is, if I ask myself that, who or how do I want to be in my relationships today? How do I want to show up? And that's what I look at the end of the day. How did I show up?
Yeah.
Right. And so expectations as I'm going through the day, am I going to hit that? Right? If I do this thing, or if I respond in this way, am I aligning with that sense of self, the way I go about doing things? So,
or did something maybe take you off track, and just recognizing it in that midpoint gives you the opportunity to correct.
Right.
And it may not be this huge correction. It could be a slight reset at that point to get there. But
like I was hungry.
Yeah.
And I was.
Oh, yeah. That is a real thing.
Yeah.
You could be grumpy because you're hungry. And we don't often maybe associate the why of those little things.
Yeah.
You don't need to think long on it, but just recognizing it and going, maybe I need to start carrying a protein bar with me, or having a snack or something, that I can have to remediate that.
Yeah. Where did I miss the who my ideal self, the who I want to be, right? Where did I miss on that? So what expectations didn't get met, mine or other people's? What sense of self? Was I stressed and short with someone because I wanted to be correct in this? And correctness is a funny little thing, right? Because sometimes correctness is, well, I need to be right because you need to be wrong.
It is such a natural human, I think, desire. It's tied to ego. It's tied to all those things. And I totally have gotten caught up in that in the past, where I'm so confident that I'm right, and also can't imagine that other person sees it differently. And this goes back to people processing things differently.
Right.
And it also tiptoes into something that everybody can always improve on, I think. And that's just humility in general, being able to say, I need to recognize that I could be wrong on that. It leads into all kinds of things that we could get into, but like, I do think about like, apologies, and how, you don't, sometimes I think people potentially, the reaction when they realize they're wrong is then they overdo it instead of just saying, hey, I was wrong on that.
Yeah.
You don't need to apologize for that in that moment. Like, to me, I save apologies for the real stuff that needs an apology, right?
Yeah.
Like you offended somebody or something like that. But I think just being able to the person say, you know what, I was wrong about that. You were right. It's you're not trying to skirt that opportunity, but you're recognizing and just even verbalizing, this was a growth moment for me. Like, cause I see that as a shortcoming, and it disarms the other person usually, especially if they know you already anyway. They probably know you do that.
Yeah.
And then they see, it's neat because they see you being willing to grow and having humility.
Yes. I think sometimes just saying I was wrong can serve as an apology. I think so many people feel like, well, you're skirting it and all this. And I've coached numerous leaders over the years where I've said, hey, I hear your heart, and your heart's good on this, but you didn't need to apologize for it. Because I've seen leaders apologize for a thing that was out of their control. I'm like, that's not an apology worthy thing. That is a discussion worthy thing where you say, team, this thing was out of our control as a team. It happened. Here's how we reacted to it. Here's the things that went good. Here's the things we recognize it, but you don't need to apologize for that. And it's something that's just, it doesn't come up a lot, but occasionally I've run into leaders where it is just,
they get into a habit of saying, I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I'm like, you don't need to say those words. Save that for those moments you really need it.
Yeah.
Because there are times we need to apologize and
Sure.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah. Well, where there you're talking about expectations not getting met.
Oh yeah.
Right.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah. So navigating a day is a lot of work, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. That's why they talk. I don't know who they are, but there's studies on how many decisions we make in a day and all that kind of thing. And you can feel it because how many of us, like, you get home, it's in the evening, no one feels like cooking, and you go, what are we going to pick up? And you look at maybe whoever's in the decision, the family or the family unit of friends, whoever's in the decision, you can see it on everybody's face. No one wants to make the call.
Yeah.
You want to put it off on somebody else because you were decisioned out. You're like you were saying, just exhausted more on the emotional or mental side of things, not even physical.
Yeah.
And and if you didn't have enough sleep the night before, you're at that point you're paying for it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's another part of being caught in the busy. And I'm excited about our conversation, and hopefully our listeners will appreciate it as well, because it feels like where we're moving to with our reset conversation is, how do we slow it down?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about being more present, right? I think that's part of Stoicism, is being more present, be in the moment, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's really, really hard or not even possible. I mean, you really have to work. You really have to work at being in the moment in every single moment, because our brain is someplace else. And as we know, right, either our brain is going forward or our brain got triggered, and it got triggered by a past event or memory. And so now it's in panic, right? And then we have all that happening. We've got, the cortisol going off.
And that can limit your effectiveness in the moment to actually get the work done that you need to. I think sometimes for me, I get into along those lines, I get into a place where I've made commitments and I realize that I overcommitted, but I've made commitments nonetheless, and I have to figure out. I fit two things. I got to figure out how to work my way out of it and fulfill the commitments. Make sure that that's done and it's done well, because I have standards. Most of us have standards on how we want to present, and all that's expectations. And then the second thing is I want to go, all right, in the future, how do I manage this? How can I? And I don't have the answer to that sometimes. I don't know that I generally have the answer to that. Right. But I'm always thinking about, all right, how can I? And I think that's what you address a lot with people, is how do I reset to go? I need to. There's got to be change. There has to be a breakthrough. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And though they're incremental. I think that's the other challenge, is that we're like, I'm going to New Year's resolutions. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to change all these things. Or even in our 90-day reset sprint, that's one of the things we talk about, is we really spend time breaking down the goal. Like,
absolutely.
How are you going to do it? What are your manageable measurables? What tasks do you have to do? How long is it going to take to do them? So that's good when we're project planning, goal setting. There's something big we want to do. How many people you mentioned that you're helping now with doing counseling up in Rowan County with small business owners.
Small business counseling, yes.
Yeah. How many people come in without a business plan?
Yeah, I mean, most people.
Yeah,
you know, it's so common.
Yeah,
but I understand it. I've had my own businesses since I was probably 15 or maybe even younger than that. Mm-hmm. I had to have my mom go with me to an accountant to set it up, and she took me through it, and I was doing. It was called Computer Tutor.
Smart mom to take you to an accountant right away.
She's a bookkeeper, so she had that background and knew. But I learned, I learned a lot, and it was, I was helping people with computers. Computers were newer, especially at home.
Yeah.
So people were trying to figure that out, and so it's just when you have that kind of thing going on, it's like over the years it may become obvious to like have a business plan and set goals, and it's really not obvious. None of this stuff's obvious, by the way. We think it's obvious because once you've had the experience and you've done it enough, it feels like it's obvious. But when you really break it down, these are learned experiences. They're things you've picked up from folks like you that are authors and experts at different aspects of, productivity and leadership and all that type of thing. But it's but you realize, and that's where I think we just have such an opportunity to give it, pay it forward, give back to people and that's why I love doing the counseling and things. I feel like I have the opportunity, even though it's just a couple hours a week, I have the opportunity to help somebody, get to hopefully not make a mistake I did. That's always on our mind, right?
Yes, and there's lots of mistakes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I've at least made one or two this year already.
Yeah,
so it's
yeah. There's lots of mistakes, and there's lots of no matter how much advice we give or coaching or counseling, sometimes people just have to have the experience of that mistake.
Oh, that's a good point. You're absolutely right. You can, and that's true for all of us. And I absolutely. I think through we just had a ribbon cutting, as you know. You came out to that a couple of weeks ago, and two of when I worked at UNC Charlotte, two of my past supervisors were there. They came out to support, and that was awesome. I hadn't seen them in a while, but they're great folks, and got to tell them all about what we're doing here and that sort of thing. But I've asked every one of my bosses, and there was one of them missing that couldn't make it up. But all of them, I've asked individually at different times, why did you not fire me?
Wow.
When I was younger, it was when I was younger, less experienced. It's really more about less experience than the age being a factor. But I said, why did you not fire me? And it's all different answers. They're taken aback a little bit by the question because I don't think it's asked a lot. But there's definitely times I start thinking back and I go, I was not always where I'm at today. I still got things to learn, things to do. But I think back, I'm like, my goodness, that was a bad thing I did there. Like that was, I mean, not horrible. I don't want to sound like I was, being terrible, but like I let somebody down. And the biggest example I always joke about is I was an student AV technician. It was before I worked full time there. And as a student, I was an AV technician. And I was supposed to run an event. And I had somebody offer me Hornets tickets. They were like, hey, you want to go to the game? And in my young person, less experienced work mind, I was like, well, it obviously makes sense. I have this opportunity. I should go to the Hornets game. And I just told the boss, I'm going to be at the Hornets game. And I guess they stayed and handled the thing. But then later I realized that was crazy that I left them to do that without shirking responsibility. But they saw something in me where they had grace for that, even though it was my fault. It wasn't anything to do with them. And, we all know what I should have done. I should have stayed and done the job and just said, well, next time maybe.
Right.
But they saw something in me. And I think that's where all of the things we're talking about is just the opportunity to learn things like reset your buttons, to acquire these pieces of knowledge that are highly valuable.
Right.
And to be able to turn around and share that with others and say, look, you're going to make your mistakes. You're going to go out and yes, you're going to fail. And you're right. You need to, Mary Elizabeth, you need to go. People are going to have to do some of that and fail on their own. But at the same time, like maybe the cycle for them to get back and to reset will be shorter because of things that, little bits of wisdom along the way from all sorts of people. Because it takes a village kind of thing where I could never provide all of that for somebody, but I'm hoping that, enough people that can line up and help can.
Yeah, it's the lesson in the experience.
Yeah.
Right. And
so much experience.
Yeah. And if we're wise, or at least I guess a little bit smarter than we were yesterday, then we say, well, that didn't feel very good.
Right.
I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so again, that's why I love your thinking about how do I want to feel at the end of today, not the end of my life, not in 90 days, just the end of today. And when I look at the things I have to do today, and there's lots of them, what do I need to remember? What do I need to recognize? Where do I need to keep my expectations? What is if my correctness is over, my correctness button is over on overdrive, versus my stability button, or, put your correctness and your accomplishment button, get those two mashed at the same time. And could be a recipe for disaster. And then how do I align that with my values, which is how do I want to feel at the end of the day?
Right.
And then take stock of the whole thing. Where do I have the opportunity? And what you just talked about beautifully is you had an opportunity to make a choice.
Yes.
And you may have seen it in the moment of, I have to go to this game. Right. Versus I'm choosing to go to this game.
Yeah. And have to take the responsibility, the consequences for those actions.
Which you learned through the experience.
Yeah, is on the other end, and it's funny. I do not even remember any conversations after that, except that general feel of kindness and kindness I didn't deserve.
Right.
Honestly, nothing I did deserve that.
But the impact that had on you.
Yeah, it was long lasting, and these are people I consider dear friends and love and care about, and just seeing them was such a joy. And because we've been through so much together, over the years, and and I think it gives me pause, and it gives me patience, it gives me grace for people when they may not live up to what my expectations are, which is that's another. We don't have time for that one, but it gives me pause to go, hey, I want to do the same thing for other people. I want to give them that opportunity to mess up. And maybe I'll have to cover a shift for, or maybe I'll have to do something, but to first of all not make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And to also you can turn it around, use it as an opportunity for the person to learn. But you don't, we don't need to be beating up everybody for it. It's if they're learning, and as long as they're growing.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah, it's in our choices that we are able to ultimately disarm that, and that's what you're talking about here. And I realize,
you have all the fancy words for what it is.
As we were talking about it, I was thinking about I love your example because it kind of falls in both camps, right?
Yeah.
Part of it is the take stock, which is this a problem? Can I see an opportunity in it?
Okay.
And I'm just, I'm using my model to apply to a story. There's a million models out there, right?
Okay,
but this model I'm looking at, how do we apply it so that we can remember, where am I falling in the reset, right? And what you were just saying about taking from the lesson and learning from it, that's the choices that we make. Take stock is, as I said, it's not a linear model. It pops up here and there. Is where's there an opportunity versus a problem? And where my brain went to in the middle of our conversation versus staying completely focused was, oh, that's kind of what he was talking about there, was that like he had an opportunity that presented a problem for somebody else, but he didn't see it as a problem. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity to go to the basketball game.
You could call it selfishness. You could call it short-sightedness. You can label it with all kinds of things. And there probably was a little bit of all that in there. Yeah. And just feeling like it's not a big deal. And at that point, even if I had seen other people do similar things, did not justify the action.
Right.
That's commonly used, but it doesn't justify it.
But that's where then the maturity comes in.
Right.
And now today we can look back at it and go, oh, you made a choice there. You can laugh
about it now.
Yeah.
But there was a lot, and I'm sure there's other examples where it's like, I can start to think of them, but there's other examples that you can start to think of in life that, and even some of it more recent, that was years ago, but it can be things that even more recent where I just messed up, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to learn from that, and I shouldn't do that. And I think it's the times where we do treat others poorly is the worst feeling that most of us have to some regard, because there's a reason it's the golden rule, how you treat people. I mean, frankly.
Right.
So.
And what I love about what you said, and as we're moving to wrapping up, is that your younger self didn't see it that way.
Absolutely not.
And
I remember that feeling. I remember just going, "This is." They should be applauding me and saying congratulations as they worked that shift of somebody I'm sure was speaking in a room and they had to run the microphone. But who knows what they gave up? Maybe they had dinner plans with
what created
their spouse
their
or
busy.
something. I don't know.
Yeah,
right.
What added to their busy for the day?
And I'm sure it was frustrating. I'm sure there might have been anger at one point, but just to think about the grace that they had to kind of let it go or to deal with it, and that's I just want that. I want to be able to continue to do that for others. And, for me, it's like, this is where I'm terrible at business, although I think it pays back in dividends over time. And it's the part where I'm not an ROI person. And that's another personality type.
Yeah.
Like I meet people, we do business with people all the time, and they're like, well, what's the ROI on that? How do I get a qualified lead? How do I do it? Those are good things. I'm glad there's people in the world that think that, because I learn a lot from them, and all that. But I'm very much heart led, and so luckily Bio provides some balance for me on some of that. But like he's heart led as well, though too. We're just different in certain ways. But I definitely I'm of the side of things where I think if you build community, you build relationships, and you show kindness, that you the stuff will work out. That may not always be true in practice, right? In life, you're going to have disappointments and things. But again, at the end of the day, I feel better about how things worked out. And again, doesn't mean ROI is bad, because I do learn a ton from that.
But isn't that your ROI?
It's a good point. It probably is my ROI, and I've had. It's funny but I need to think on that some more. I agree. I think it is, because Bio and I talk about when we have community meetups, and we've had people literally here in town. They'll say, well, what's the ROI on that? And I'm like, well, it's not like we're not charging for this stuff. It's all free, so there's not like this immediate turnaround. But we've used community meetups turn around and wind up being recruiting tools. We've hired people from those. We've brought up other leaders. People have grown. We've helped people, other businesses in the community, find employment. Employees.
It's how we became your clients.
Yeah. You came to an event. It was a headshot.
Yeah.
Our free headshots event.
Yeah.
And I know that shook, even that headshots thing. I know that shook up some people probably that probably photographers in the area that saw that, like, what are they doing? I'm like, well, listen, there's plenty of people in the world, and there's going to be plenty of people paying for headshots. We're not disrupting that. We're not doing this every week.
Right.
But it felt like a great way, especially when you got so many people that are laid off from work right now. They've been let go wherever, just all kinds of circumstances. They need headshots too. They're trying to get out there and, get another job maybe or whatever. And it if that helps. That's not everybody's circumstance, but if it helps somebody out, that's awesome. And the people that came, our photographers in the group, were able to learn and get better at their craft.
Correct.
So.
And I think that's where bringing it all back together around the busy, because that was a busy event and a busy Saturday.
It's a lot to put that on. Yeah, it's a lot. The community did great pulling it together, but it's still a lot of work for a lot of people.
Yeah, and so looking at having the balance and again, I'm pausing here a little bit because, a lot of times people are like, reset is about balance. It is.
Yeah.
And it isn't. Today's conversation, though, really does feel like it does really lend itself to having some balance in the busy. And my takeaway from it is having the balance in the busy is by thinking through not where do I want to be in 90 days or a week from now or a day from now, and not looking at my task list of, okay, I got to go because I've got this at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, or, it's to get to the next task. It's how do I want to feel at the end of the day?
Right.
I invested my, we get 1,440 minutes in every day. We've talked about this. You get it and it's gone. That's it. That's all you got.
You're not getting it back.
1,440. They're not going to give, you don't get it back.
Yeah.
So how did I spend my investment of my 1,440 minutes today? Break that down into your work and your waking hours.
Yep.
Did I meet my goal of making a difference today?
However you quantify that, how did that work out? And that can be a great feeling when you do. And then I think we talked about grace a bunch and how impactful that is to people and kindness. But I think ultimately you have to turn that around, and that's part of reset and everything you talk about.
Yeah.
You got to turn around for yourself too. You've got to give yourself grace for the days that it doesn't
work out.
Right, because there's days and you doesn't mean it's a bad day. It just means that something didn't work out. Maybe multiple things didn't work out.
Right.
But you got to say, you know what? I get up tomorrow. I get to do it again, and that sort of thing. So I think that's something that's made an impact on me that a lot of great people have told me about over, especially the last probably 4 or 5 years, I think, in my life, where it's like, be kind to yourself, remember to give yourself that opportunity
because
to come back.
Sometimes the end of the day return on investment is I made it through the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And the reality is, while your head may be spinning through like the things that didn't go wrong, because you spend so much time during the week, doing really great work and cool things and building relationships with people or whatever you do, whatever your goals are, you probably still affected some people you didn't realize, because your mind gets so attached to the things that didn't go well or whatever, that if you really were to go back and talk to some people you interacted with, they're like, you said something today that just changed the way I was thinking, or you lifted me up somehow when because it's funny how people, when they're down and not feeling great, how much they can't lift themselves up, but they can lift up somebody else at the same time. It's weird how we do that as humans sometimes.
It could be sometimes. I think the simplest things we need to do for ourselves is, did I smile today, or did I laugh
That's
today?
right.
Because my smile or my laughter might have, because days are hard.
Yeah.
And like we said, sometimes it's I got through the day. And I just, for our listeners, want to reiterate, if you start small in the busy and you say, today, when I'm at the end of my day today, not here's what I wanted to accomplish, it's how do I want to feel about how I live today?
Yeah.
That's what I heard you say.
Yeah, and it's funny to hear you say it so succinctly, because I know we're also in a world where like how you feel has been diminished so much, but it is a real thing. We have feelings. We're humans, but I think it's important. How do you feel? And then you can look into like why you feel that way and all that stuff. But but how you feel is how you feel.
Yeah.
And I've had some wise people tell me that you should never feel bad about feeling the way you do. There is a perspective for that. There's a reason for that. But it is a real thing. And it's in the tired at the end of the day or into the evening, it is nice to be able to look back and say, okay, so let's talk about the things that maybe I could grow from and do better, but let's also enjoy the things that seem to go well or that were successful.
Impact.
Yeah, where you had impact, because I had lunch today. That there was some impact. I ate lunch.
Yeah.
I nourished my body, but that wasn't the same. I don't equate that to like this conversation. I don't equate it with a lot of other cool things.
Yeah. And you stopped and had lunch.
Yeah.
And
which is better than some days where you don't stop and have lunch and it's not great for you.
Right. So. And this could become a whole different rabbit hole, but what it took to be able to stop and have lunch, and the purchase wherever the food came from, and all the things, right? And we just leap and jump into the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I hope that our listeners take from this episode the idea of, when you want to slow down the busy, you start with the end in mind. How do you want to end your day?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. I know Mr. Covey brought that to the world, but I believe that came out of the Bible somewhere.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff doesn't seem to go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to just have a conversation with me today.
Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you so much for this beautiful studio and the opportunity that we have to come here. You talked about you and Bio caring and the giving back and the mic drops and the meetups. When John and I, my marketing partner with Phoenix Fire Solutions, met you, and Gary as well, my husband, we knew very clearly that we wanted to work with you because we knew that you cared.
Oh, that's great to hear.
And for the business folks that are out there, new and up and coming, and even those who have been in business for a long time, always remember that it is about people want to do business with who they know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. More than that, they want to know that you care about their success as well. And you guys do that. So
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah. So that's another episode of Reset Your Buttons. And we look forward to having you back listening to us in our next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Reset Your Buttons podcast with Mary Elizabeth Murphy. If you want to learn more about Star Resources, Reset Your Buttons, or have Mary Elizabeth speak at your next event, please submit a contact form at starresources.net/contact.